Hello everybody, you're welcome back again to the Reggae Appreciation Society. When we go over the history of reggae music, we almost exclusively cover the lives and careers of the genre's greatest stars, as well as the timeless and brilliant music that they put together for our listening pleasure. But where would our beloved icons have been without the record companies, those ubiquitous business entities that discover the artists, nurture them, as well as produce, promote, and distribute their music to the four corners of the globe? But as most music fans would have noticed, these labels are sometimes guilty of being ruthless profit seekers who prey on the artist's hard work, often leaving them with very little to show for all their record sales and efforts. But not all are bad. Without them, there would be no Burning Spear, Black Uhuru, or U-Roy. In this video, we're counting down our picks for the top 7 reggae-centric record labels of all time, and I'll base our criteria on their influence and impact in taking reggae to the world. Number 7. Blue Beat Records. If we're talking about a label that was the first to truly launch reggae as a distinct sound, we have to start with this outfit. It was so influential that its name would come to define the genre itself. This label was the brainchild of an Austrian-born American businessman named Emil Schalitz, who was the founder of Britain's first independent record label, Melodisc, which he registered in 1949. So Melodisc's business model was the importation of American jazz records into the UK. But by the late 1950s, Emil Schalitz would discover the hidden treasure that was Caribbean music, and particularly the sound emanating from Jamaica. He formed a company called Blue Beat, which was dedicated to importing records from some new hot producers on the island, like a young Coxsone Dodd, Prince Buster, and Duke Reid, who were all producing a new infectious sound called ska. Their recordings caught fire in Britain, but in those early days, no one knew how to describe that genre. So fans of the music that wanted to listen to ska would go to the record shops and ask for the latest Blue Beat records. The likes of Prince Buster, Derrick Morgan, and Joe Higgs would, through Blue Beat Records, find their way into the UK market and spawned an organic fan base, and the rest, they say, is history. Number 6. Ras Records. Real Authentic Sounds, otherwise known as Ras, had an incredible role in the history of the genre. This label rose to prominence by, in my opinion, cashing in on the exploitative excesses of the bigger record labels by signing artists who had been left hanging and hung out to dry. Ras Records gave these reggae musicians a platform to make comebacks and get second and even third chances to revive their careers. The label was founded in Washington, D.C. in 1979 by a man named Gary Himmelfarb, more popularly known as Dr. Dread. In his early 20s, he traveled to Jamaica and spent 3 months on the island, a visit that made him a reggae fan and one that changed his life. So he went back to America and became a reggae DJ on a radio station named WHFS that was broadcasting out of Washington, and would form Ras Records in 1979. Dr. Dread's frequent visits to Jamaica had made him familiar with many artists, and from interacting with them, he would feel their pain and all their challenges. By the mid-1980s, Ras Records had signed Black Uhuru, who had been dropped by Island Records, Israel Vibration, who had all but quit music and were living in the US, as well as Yellow Man, Junior Reid, Freddie McGregor, Culture, and many others. By the mid-1980s, that label had become a true international giant and was a major force that truly helped to cement reggae's popularity in the US. Number 5. Treasure Isle Records. This outfit, established by the great Arthur Duke Reid, was among the first in Jamaica and was founded in the late 1950s. So by the 1960s, Treasure Isle's own studio was one of the frontline labs to where the new sounds of ska and eventually rocksteady would grow to take over the world. Treasure Isle Records would crank out countless hits from super red hot performers like Stranger Cole, The Techniques, The Melodians, The Paragons, Alton Ellis, and so many more. His outfit was among those responsible for exporting the records that made ska a global sound. But I believe that label's most notable highlight was its revolutionary innovation of recording the toasting of DJs and packaging it into tracks and eventually albums. And this feat was first achieved when in 1970 Treasure Isle Records released the album Version Galore by a young toaster named U-Roy. The success of this album would mark the birth of dancehall as a distinct subgenre of reggae, and one which would overtake roots as a dominant sound out of Jamaica by the middle of the 1980s. Number 4. Trojan Records. This UK powerhouse continued from where Blue Beat Records left off, by truly pushing reggae into the mainstream of British culture and from there into the global music consciousness. Founded in 1967 by Chris Blackwell and Lee Gopthal, who operated as label boss, it started by focusing on importing records issued by Duke Reid's Treasure Isle label, and from there began to spread its own wings and record its own artists. Its 1969 release of singer Tony Tribe's cover of Neil Diamond's Red Red Wine gave Trojan Records its first UK Top 40 hit. It scored massive hits in the same year that included Jimmy Cliff's Wonderful World Beautiful People, Harry J's All-Star Liquidator, and the Upstarters Return of Django. Trojan Records also issued the Wailers album Soul Rebels in 1970, a compilation that was the group's first overseas release. The label scored the first #1 hit when Dave and Alson Collins' track Double Barrel soared to the top of the UK charts, and the label became a cultural phenomenon. Trojan Records' influence on UK culture was immense as his music became adopted by the UK skinhead movement. The label also got the credit as his music helped unite people across racial and cultural divides. Number 3. Studio One. As far as reggae music is concerned, this label wasn't just a company, but is celebrated today as the genre's own original university. Founded by the great Clement Coxsone Dodd in 1954, it was set up to release music produced at a studio and would introduce the world to countless legends like Bob Marley and the Wailers, Burning Spear, the Heptones, Ken Booth, and so many more, all backed by Jamaica's then greatest in-house backing bands like the Scatterlights and the Soul Brothers. This label's impact on world music is simply unbelievable and difficult to measure, as it was the cradle of ska and reggae music. This label would continue to unleash acts into the 1970s and 1980s like Freddie McGregor, Sugar Minott, and Johnny Osborne. The number of instrumentals or rhythms put together by Studio One, I believe, run into tens of thousands and are still in high demand and reused till today by reggae artists emerging in the 21st century. Number 2. Island Records. Now, it took a lot for me to restrain my bias and not put this label at number 1 on this list. Unless you just arrived on the planet, I can bet that you've either danced or listened to the music from this legendary company. Unlike the others on this list, Island Records was not dedicated to reggae music alone, but more than any other, truly launched reggae music into the global reckoning as a bona fide genre of music. It was founded by Chris Blackwell in 1959 and largely operated as an importer of Jamaican records to the UK until 1964, when it scored a breakthrough with his own artist, Millie Small, whose song My Boy Lollipop became a global smash hit. Seeing the huge potential of reggae music, Island Records will stay on the lookout for more and will discover a 20-year-old singer named Jimmy Cliff, who with time also became a massive success. But this revelation would pale in comparison when Island signed a trio called the Wailers, and the rest is history. As the 1970s unfolded, that outfit became the home and the mecca for reggae's biggest acts, from the Burning Spear to Max Romeo, Bonnie Wailer, Black Uhuru, and Aswad, among countless others. And coming in at number 1 is the great VP Records. It's the youngest of all the labels on this list, but in less than 3 decades, it wields an influence that is mind-boggling. This company was the brainchild of Jamaican couple Vincent and Pat Chin, whose first names make up the name VP Records. The Chins began their journey with a record store in Kingston called Randy's. They went on to open a state-of-the-art recording studio called Studio 17 at the start of the 1970s. They were forced to leave Jamaica due to the political violence that was tearing the island apart, and they moved to America and settled in New York, where they opened a record store called VP Records and went on to become a smashing success. However, by the early 1990s, the Chins noticed the massive explosion and popularity of dancehall in America and the world at large. And since they were familiar with all the artists, they got a brainwave to start their own label and sign them for themselves. They founded the VP Record label in 1993 and moved quickly to sign many new and existing reggae artists. They are credited with transforming Beenie Man from a local star into a global icon when they unleashed his album Who Am I in 1997. They also signed Supercat, Beres Hammond, Sizzler, and became the home of reggae's hottest acts by the end of the 90s. They would take their already roaring success into overdrive when they signed an artist named Sean Paul in the year 2000. His debut album, Stage 1, was a hit, but his second album, Dirty Rock, that came out in 2002, became a global smash hit that went multiple platinum and won a Grammy for Best Reggae Album. Today, the number of Grammy-winning artists under the stables of BP Records keeps rising, as well as the staggering number of its iconic artists. It's estimated that 4 out of 5 superstar reggae artists today are BP affiliated, making it the biggest, most influential, and most successful reggae label of all time. So there you have it. Thank you for watching this video today. Please leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, God bless.